Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Nick Cage Fights Podcast, where every once in a while we get to review a movie where the story is about a man who gets so horny he sets a world record and defends his title across the course of over 200 races. This is one of those stories. Ironically enough, I'm one of your hosts, Josh, joined as always by Rich and Ryan. How are we feeling about reviewing The Boy in Blue?
I'm feeling like I want some of that moonshine he was making.
Yeah.
I have some questions about that.
I
and
have
I'm
some
going,
answers more than likely.
Thank God,
I
because
might
I'm
as well.
display my historical ignorance here. So, as we
And
said,
and I will say Canada was not dry at the time. There's another reason that I found because
It's
I was
taxes.
exactly. Yeah, it's so his
okay.
his dad, he was doing it for his dad actually. His dad had a hotel like in the middle of like an island on one of the, I guess maybe Lake Ontario or something.
No, it's the Toronto Islands.
Okay. Well, he had
I
like a
do remember
hotel
that
there.
from the little bit of research I did.
Gotcha. I didn't remember that, but I remember the story. Was his dad owned a hotel there, but he didn't want to pay the taxes on booze to get his patrons hammered. So he would have his son row across the states, buy a bunch of liquor, and then row back.
All right. First of all, full support for saying fuck the crown
Yes.
as far as the taxes are concerned.
Oh, yeah.
And B, thank you for resetting my understanding of what was going on. I was like, was this during Prohibition? Was he rowing booze over to the States? Because there's a fair amount of Canadian rye leaking down during that time. But in the movie, all of the cops that are trying to stop him are just Canadian. So it's
and he died before Prohibition even started in the U.S.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. I'm bad at history. I'm bad at geography. But goddamn, if I can't talk about a movie.
Yeah, he died in January 4th, 1908, which is about 12 or 13 years before Prohibition really kicked in.
Yeah, I was not grounded in the timeline for the course of this film. But to start us off, we're covering The Boy in Blue, which was a 1986 produced film, which was rated R. Bizarrely, we'll get into that.
It was a Caddyshack R, is what I call it.
Yeah.
It's a Caddyshack R.
It's rated R for all of those archaic insults that they were lobbing around.
No,
like
it was for the nudity and the fuck scenes for sure.
No, it's definitely for fucking David Naughton calling people greasy bum boys.
Okay, I was gonna say, it's like I don't think it was because of the number of scallywags uttered it during the course of the film.
Which reminds me, should we change the name of the podcast to the Greasy Bum Boys?
Yes, actually.
That
could be a separate podcast, actually.
Yeah. We'd have to do a very specific concept.
I mean,
that
Pissy Partners was another good one that I appreciated.
I'm excited to dive into all of the weird insults that were levied in this film. Runtime, it clocks in at an hour and 40 minutes, roughly. Too long for this film. I know it's real close to our favorite sweet spot, but
sometimes
exactly
that sweet spot is right on the dot. Like 1 minute over can be 1 minute too many.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, and this movie just would have been better if they told the real story, which we'll get into later.
Yeah. So first off, let's get housekeeping out of the way, right? Starting off, we have the director, Charles Jarrett. Jarrett? I don't know.
Yeah, I have no input on that.
There you go.
Probably French Canadian, which means that it's pronounced all fucked up, even though I know a little bit of French pronunciation.
You know what? I looked him up during my housekeeping research, and I think he ended up living in the States.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when he died in 2011, he was living in Los Angeles.
Oh shit, he was born in the UK, so it might even be more fucked up than that. Yeah. So it's not like Charles Jarreau, it's like Jarrett.
Yeah, Jarrett is probably the correct pronunciation. So this individual directed The Secret Life of Algernon, Turn of Faith, The Amateur, Encounter, and Anne of 1,000 Days. And I'm saving my favorite for last because I actually I looked up the plot to this movie Condor Man, which is about a guy who gains the powers of the superhero that he writes about. It's like it. I watched.
There's a Japanese movie that does that exact same thing called Zebra Man.
That's a little on the nose.
Oh, hold the fucking phone! I have seen this. This is a Disney movie.
Wait,
it is.
I've seen Condor Man. It's so fucking weird.
I watched the trailer. It looked like shitty Batman.
I had to watch it because it's got Oliver Reed, and I love Oliver Reed.
So the reason why I know this movie is because when I was a kid, my dad would take us to Disney World like all the fucking time. It's like the only place he knew about, I feel. And in MGM Studios, there was always like these like movie rides, like look at all this stuff we have from movies. And there was an inappropriate amount of time spent on Condor Man, a movie that I had never seen nor heard of.
Oh, check this out. The tagline for the movie is, he spies, he flies, he death defies.
The whole plot is about him using... He's basically a shitty Batman, and he helps a Soviet spy defect. So...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fucking weird. The flight scenes are really goofy.
He reminded me, it's funny, I gotta bring it up because it's a movie that we've reviewed. He reminds me of the opening scene of Kick-Ass, the dude who dives off the building and just crashes into a car at the base of it. But honestly, that being a Disney movie tracks. This guy also he directed some movie that was basically like an homage to Disney in general, I believe.
Okay.
He seemed like a big Disney adult before that was a thing we had a term for. That's right. All right. I'm sorry. He directed 2 episodes of a TV series called The Magical World of Disney.
Was that actually a TV series, or was that one of those things that runs when you're in a fucking Disney resort on the like one of the dead channels?
It's all right. So the description is a Disney produced anthology covering many different genres.
Oh, okay. I think that did run on like early Disney Channel when it was mostly live action, like weird stuff. Oh shit, man, Slim Pickens was on 20 episodes of this? Weird.
Real. All I picture him doing is saying inappropriate things in Blazing Saddles.
I always no, man. It's the bomb scene.
Well, yeah, there's
Doctor Strangelove.
Yes,
that's the Slim Pickens moment.
Fair point. So that's our director, which will make a lot of sense when we get into
this fucking movie.
Yeah, exactly. And then next up, we have the writer, who is Douglas Bowie, no relation. But my favorite part about Douglas Bowie's CV is that he also wrote The Girl in Blue, which is not about rowing boats at all.
Yeah, I did a quick little check on the synopsis. It seems like it's about infidelity.
Yeah, or like seemed like a romantic comedy of some sort. I honestly don't know. But he wrote The Boy in Blue and The Girl in Blue. Also wrote Love and Larceny and Grand Larceny. So this is a man that loved synchronicity here.
That man likes the same well. He keeps going to it.
But he did also write, I think this is a TV movie that apparently now, if you don't know this about me already, I'm not super big on Christmas movies. My Christmas watch list is primarily oddball comedies and horror movies that are set during Christmas.
That's funny you mention that, because there's a Christmas movie that's going to come up during housekeeping that I legitimately love that is just a fucking heist movie with a mall Santa.
And nice. So Reindeer Games, right?
No, it's not. I'm pretty sure I've talked about this movie before the last time Christopher Plummer came up on the podcast.
You probably have, but I will never pass up an opportunity to make a Reindeer Games joke.
That's fair.
But yeah, this writer wrote Must Be Santa, which I read is a staple Christmas viewing bit, right?
Wouldn't know. Not a normie.
Yeah, no, not my thing. I watched
it's not ADBC, a rock opera. It's not on my Christmas viewing.
Oh my god, that's still the greatest thing I've ever seen.
It's so fucking good. I've watched that like 16 times this past Christmas because I just kept showing it to people.
Sorry, my must watch on Christmas viewing is the Christmas episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. That's the one I don't miss.
Yeah,
ever. Everything
So I
else
guess
is
this is our Christmas in July episode.
yeah,
Yeah.
kind of.
For me, my Christmas Day movie, oddly enough, is Fellowship.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
It's just I watch it on Christmas. It's what I do.
There
I
you
wake
go.
up, put on Fellowship, start opening presents.
For me, it's Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. Because I
That's
gotta.
Much
that's
more
not
appropriate.
bad. I actually I have to look this up real quick because I don't want to do it any injustice. I recently it's relatively recent, but oh shit, that's not the name. I can't remember. There's a Christmas slasher movie about like a little sociopathic kid that's being babysat who like it's like a riff on Home Alone almost,
Okay.
but like he has a psychotic crush on his babysitter and contrives basically a bunch of murders, and it's a fantastic flick, and it has been on my Christmas watch list since I've seen it.
That sounds up
Can't
my
remember
alley.
the name, but it's a good one.
Yeah, there's a lot of good Christmas horror. You got that
Hell yeah.
Krampus movie. You got every movie that involving a killer Santa Claus.
All right, so we can move on to the cast. First up, as always, we have Nick Cage, who plays Ned Hanlon, who is a real life individual. Yeah, there you go. Rich is going to fill us in on the details of his actual life as opposed to his portrayed life in this film.
Yeah, because this dude did some cool shit.
Next up, we have Cynthia Dale as Margaret. She was in
no known last name.
What was that?
No known last name. Doesn't matter.
I mean, if you're actually curious about her real last name, I'm positive I could find it quickly. It was Margaret Gordon Sutherland.
Oh, there you go. That tracks, actually. She was in Moonstruck. Shout out to another Cage joint. Heavenly Bodies, My Bloody Valentine, and A Broken Life.
I love My Bloody Valentine and the bad 3D remake they did like 15 years ago.
See, that's the one I saw. I'd never saw the original.
They're both pretty good.
Fair. I got to go back and track down the original. Next up, we have Christopher Plummer as Knox, who was in Beginners, The Insider, All the Money in the World, more recently Knives Out, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and Inside Man.
I got a few to shout out for him. Yeah, he was the Duke in Rockadoodle, and he was the mall Santa in The Silent Partner, playing across from Elliot Gould in a pretty good mall bank heist movie.
I'll have to check that out. I'm still not sold on the benefits of pulling a heist at a mall.
Well, it's because the dude was the mall Santa. Like he's not very clever.
He was also the speaker of the Greybeards in Skyrim.
Oh yeah, actually, but he has a fair amount of voice acting credits in like video games and stuff like that. I remember seeing the Skyrim one, but he had a couple, if I'm not mistaken.
He also came dangerously close to EGOTing.
I don't doubt that. Dude is a legend. He's been in everything. He was in that Dragnet movie with fucking Tom Hanks and Dan Aykroyd.
So he missed out on a Grammy, but he's been nominated for, which is like crazy, at least to me.
You know what he may or may not have been in?
What's that?
Commercials, advertisements for goods and services. That's right. We are now going so long on housekeeping. You gotta listen to an ad in the middle of it. If you don't like it, buy the Patreon.
All right, that was a good transition because do you know what I just did like earlier this week? I lowered that $3 tier down to $1.
Oh shit, yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, so you can get that $3 tier for $1
going on.
For the price of a cup of coffee, you can support us? My God, that's a good deal.
Less than a cup
I was gonna say,
coffee.
where the fuck are you getting your coffee from, bro?
I mean, I still get the small coffee at Wawa. It's like fucking $1 and change.
Okay. Get all my coffee exclusively from Black Rifle Coffee Company, which is like, when you do the math, is like $15 a cup.
Jesus.
And you gotta show those liberals somehow, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you gotta.
I do know what you mean.
You gotta own the libs. I still need to come up with a good grift to own the libs because I feel like there's definitely still money to be made.
By own the libs, you mean funnel money from the conservatives.
Yes, into my pocket.
Into your pocket, yes.
Yes. I know that there is numerous grifts still out there, and I will find one.
You got to get Fast and Furious Tokyo Grift.
Any good grift is about weaponizing some grievances and turning that into dollars that go into your pocket specifically.
It's got to be something involving Hunter Biden. Like that's where I think the money's at right now. I just don't know what yet.
Dude, sell fucking laptops. Just sell laptops.
That sounds like a legitimate business. That is, you're not embracing the spirit of the grift.
Well, no, you put a sticker on it that says may include state secrets.
No,
yes, and
you're almost there. You got to have stickers that say this is Hunter Biden's laptop that people can slap on their laptops.
Okay.
You could do that, but I feel like I can also just custom make some like cases for like $200 Chromebooks and sell them for like $800.
There you go.
I mean, that's a possibility, but like volume wise, I think you could make a sticker that looks like an evidence tag that just says Hunter Biden's laptop.
Yeah.
And sell 1 million of them.
TM.
That'd be so good.
Oh yeah, no. I've already filed the trademarks, folks.
Yeah.
Along with all of my other stupid ideas. So next up, we have David Naughton as Bill McCoy. I'm almost positive. I used last names in my notes on this one, so the fact that IMDb was insisting on just listing the first names of all these characters is throwing me for a bit of a loop. That being said, David Naughton has also been in An American Werewolf in London, Steel and Lace, Hot Dog, the movie, and Sharknado 5 Global Swarming.
Was Hot Dog the movie? That was one of the 80s ski movies, right?
100%, yeah.
That like Hot Tub Time Machine was making fun of.
Exactly, yeah. He was also in one episode of Murder, She Wrote, which if I see Murder, She Wrote, I got to shout out Murder, She Wrote.
I mean, that is fair.
Wait, to ground me in the ski movie narrative, is it like the episode of Always Sunny where they spoofed ski movies?
Yeah, basically.
There's an episode of South Park where they do the same thing too.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. And South Park did it first. I'll give them credit, but I love the Always Sunny one.
Yeah, there was a whole glut of those in the 80s and a glut of parodies of them in the 2000s.
Sure, of course.
Yeah, there was one in like circle. There's one in like 2001. I forget what it's called.
Is that the one with Zach Galifianakis where he gets his dick stuck in a hot tub?
Yes, it is.
Bubble machine. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I'm very glad I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm gonna look it up now.
Yeah, what the fuck was that called?
Thank you for forcing that on me. While you're looking it up, we've got Sean Sullivan as Walter.
It was Out Cold.
It was Out Cold. Damn it. Yeah.
I win that one.
Sean Sullivan was in 2001, A Space Odyssey, The Dead Zone, Here Will I Nest, and Silence of the North, amongst others.
He was also in that Santa bank heist movie, The Silent Partner, as the bank guard.
Huh.
There you go.
He was also in Atlantic City, which
I was about to say he was in Atlantic City. Yeah.
I don't know how I missed that. I apologize.
Not a bad movie.
Did you mention The Dead Zone? I think you might have.
I did.
Okay. Yeah. I like that quite a bit. That is one of my favorite Christopher Walken performances.
As a matter of fact, I'm going to watch Atlantic City tonight.
That's a good ass movie.
There you go. Next up, we have Melody Anderson as Dulcie, who is in Flash Gordon, Speed Zone, Firewalker, Dead and Buried, and also in the Battlestar Galactica TV series.
You mentioned the one I wanted to talk about, which was Flash Gordon.
Flash Gordon. We're not going to not mention Flash Gordon.
It's definitely one of the best sci-fi movies ever made.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's unrepentantly horny. I rewatched that a couple of months ago when I got the Blu-ray, and man, that movie fucks.
And then last on my list is Walter Massey as Mayor, who is in The Greatest Game Ever Played, Zombie Nightmare, Dead Silent, The Velveteen Rabbit, and Waking the Dead.
I got a couple more. We've got Austin Willis, who played Bainbridge. He was Simmons in Goldfinger. That's the only credit I've got for him that's interesting. And
Bainbridge was the Australian dude, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then Philip Craig, who played Kinnear. He was in John Q, which is a movie I quite liked.
Wait, the Denzel Washington one?
Yeah, where he holds up the hospital for them to do the surgery on his dying son.
Yeah.
Yeah, the movie's pretty damn good.
Yeah, no, I like the message.
Oh, he was also a senator in Death to Smoochie. That was the big one I wanted to mention for this.
Death to Smoochie. One of, to this day, one of my favorite black comedies in general. I don't think that movie gets enough credit.
No, it was amazing.
It absolutely does not. Oh, I do have one more. This was the other holiday, like Christmas tie-in. James Edmund, who plays the chairman. I think it's just in one of like the meeting scenes. It might be the guy who bans Ned Hanley from rowing in the continental U.S. He was in a movie called Black Christmas, which was the original slasher film, predating Halloween by a few years.
There you go. I love a reference to an original slasher film. So, with housekeeping out of the way, we can proceed with the plot. Now, I just want to be clear from the outset. I was not super excited to watch this film. The concept itself, I don't care about rowing boats, even tiny boats, extra fast. It's a weird thing to me personally, and I don't have any personal draw to it. It's about as intriguing to me as a movie about the best stamp collector in the world. It's not my wheelhouse.
Okay, but what if that stamp collector is really fucking good at collecting stamps?
Literally in my notes, I put, actually, I think the stamp collector thing might be cooler.
That might be cooler, yeah.
Might.
Well, I mean, like, stamp collectors don't be bootlegging.
That's true. So I will also say at the outset that I enjoyed this movie more than I thought I would when I went into it.
Same, but for me, I still didn't enjoy it that much.
I didn't enjoy it that much, but the fact that I didn't hate it as much as I anticipated gave me a little bit of critic whiplash, I would say.
Yeah, I hear
mainly
that.
Because this movie is insane. It is a mix of your standard sports movie made for children, but with nudity and graphic sex scenes, which makes no sense. I don't know where they were trying to get their market share for this, but
again, it's Caddyshack. When Caddyshack, I think, first was going to be released, they were going to make it PG. So then they were just
pre PG-13.
Right, they were making it PG, and they were just like, quick, throw some titties in there.
I get that, but I always viewed Caddyshack as like a raunchy comedy. The fact that it was centered around ostensibly a sport was almost like inconsequential overall to what they were doing.
Right, but like a lot of the raunch was explicitly added later. Because if you watch it, okay, when I was a kid, my dad fucking loved Caddyshack, and he would have me watch it, but he would skip the boobs.
That's just child abuse.
And we kind of came up with like this, and we're just like, this movie could have very easily just been PG. Because it's very funny, but outside of like the scenes that are meant to be extraordinarily raunchy, there's not that much raunch.
Fair. Was Caddyshack associated with National Lampoons?
No, it was not a National Lampoons movie.
So I'll give you that comparison in that the raunch in this seems to almost be added as an afterthought. I don't know why they chose to go the way they did and suffer the rating that they did, but here we are. So the movie at least is self-aware, right? Sculling, which is just an absurdly cool term for rowing a teeny tiny boat, completely unearned in my opinion. But at least the movie knows this, right? Because it starts off with, even back in 1986, it starts with a paragraph of scrolling text trying to jazz you up about rowing a boat. It's like baseball, football, soccer for
pussy
idiots,
sports,
morons, mouth breathers. Sculling is where it's at. And this movie is about one of the best, Ned Hamlin. And so we open on a scene of a bunch of people in period appropriate costumes, I'm assuming, watching a group of dudes row their little rowboats. One of these little rowboats has Nick Cage in it, which is cool and the reason why we're here. So I did enjoy that. Hanlon wins this rowboat contest and immediately opens up a bottle of what we can only assume is liquor that he had with him in this little boat. Afterwards, one of the people who lost in the race invites Hanlon to come to another race in Philly, which Hanlon declines, and the stranger declines Hanlon's offer of moonshine, and Hanlon goes back to his actual, not day job, it's a night job of running booze in Canada in a rowboat. This was, like I said, at the beginning, this was one of the parts that confused me. Rich, thankfully, explained that he was running booze so his dad could avoid Canadian taxes. This was just booze running within the borders of Canada itself, correct?
Yeah, well, no, because he would row. Hold on, because I actually pulled up Google Maps for this. He would row to the New York side across Lake Ontario to pick up the booze from like one of the port towns and then row it back to Toronto. Okay. Where I guess how good he was, he could do that in a 10-hour span, because that is not an insignificant. That's like 28 miles each way.
Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah, see, that is impressive, and the movie chooses to sort of skip over that. The way this interaction with the character that we learn as McCoy goes, it looks like he's running moonshine out of his own broke-ass distillery, boathouse combo thing to some other location, right? And so the movie follows him on this journey at this point in the film, and there's a bunch of... I thought this was hilarious. Like, he rows up to his landing spot, he gets out with a crate, a single crate, by the way, of booze, and there is a bunch of cops, but I do love that the cops brought for like a ride along a bunch of weird religious fanatics with torches.
Yeah, why was that priest there?
The priest
because booze is like, the devil.
Yeah, yeah. They're like, you're peddling sin. Get them, cops. Like, that's berserk.
And my favorite part of this scene too, because everything with me comes back to Fast and Furious. And like Fast and Furious, it's always like, don't let them get in a car because then they have superpowers. It was the same thing I felt like with a boat in this one. Like, don't let them get into a boat.
And of course, Hanlon shows he drops the crate of booze. He gets back in his boat. He starts rowing. My favorite part is like they grab the rope, like the anchoring rope from the boat as he's trying to row away. So he just cuts it. And then other cops come out on another rowboat. And he just fucking hits their boat and knocks them into the water. And then just keeps rowing away.
Because he was a boat superhero and a booze superhero.
Indisputably. At least as far as the events of the film are concerned. And from the sounds of it, this man's real life as well. So the next scene is honestly one of my favorite funny bits from the film. Also one of the raunchy scenes. Because the next day, like, the sun is up and the cops are converging on Hanlon's boathouse, where he is very noisily fucking his girlfriend, to the point that, by the way, the cops brought the priest along again this next morning. And the cops get to the boathouse and they hear what's going on. And one of the cops is like, should we let him finish?
Yeah, and the priest is like, no, block that cock. Baby.
No,
he's like, nah, he's a fornicator
and a fornicator. He should be double arrested. But I will say this: we're generally not a pro cop podcast. I think that's been made very clear over the course of our episodes. But the cop who's like, should we let him finish? Only gentlemen in the group.
Yes, absolutely. Do not coitus interruptus this man.
Exactly. Now, despite their best efforts, Hanlon does finish and then jumps out of the top window of the boathouse, directly into the water to swim off while his girlfriend taunts the cops, but like taunts the cops in an old-timey way. So what I mean by that is like she's on this balcony and the cops are watching Hanlon just sort of swim away, and she flicks her skirts at him, which again is an old-timey insult because she showed ankle.
Yeah, I mean, she's wearing 6 layers. Like, what are you expecting here?
But still, I mean, like they just heard her getting raw dogged upstairs, but the ankle flash, that is where the insult comes in. So Hanlon is swimming away, and there's a man in the water with a boat who motions him over like a little rowboat. And Hanlon goes, and this is the guy who Hanlon turned down the night before. He gets into the boat, and he's like, "What are we supposed to do?" And the man McCoy is like, "Look at that steamboat. Let's get to the steamboat." He's like, "I can't catch that."
Well, hang on real quick, because I thought something that, because you glossed over it, I think might be incorrect at this point. Was this the guy that he was racing in the opening scene who like stole his oar?
No, I don't think so.
Okay,
he was watching the race.
Okay, for some reason I thought it was the same guy.
So hold on, to be clear, because this is what my copious note taking is explicitly meant to deal with. McCoy did in fact race in that no name, no stakes race in Canada and was the second place dude that Hanlon beats.
Really? Okay.
Yes,
I
okay.
completely didn't catch that. I was under the impression he was in the crowd.
Because he actually stole Hanlon's oar and like threw it in the water, and then Hanlon had to go get it and still beat him. And then at the end of the race, he gives him like a begrudging nod of respect.
No, that I think you're mixing up with a different race. There is another thing about an oar, but there isn't an oar being stolen, but we'll get into it.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, that initial race was straight up, and McCoy lost. He got second place to Hanlon, and then McCoy goes to the boathouse to try and recruit Hanlon to race in the Philadelphia race. And then there's some oar shenanigans at several different points in the film, but not at this point.
Okay, got it.
So Hanlon and McCoy do catch up to the steamboat. They climb aboard, which produces way less of a reaction than I would expect to being boarded by gentlemen from a rowboat, even at this period of time. But this is the appropriate time to discuss this. We've reviewed a number of Nick Cage films at this point. This is the most jacked I have ever seen Nick Cage in a film.
Dude is svelte.
Far.
He's by
far.
He's yoked.
And I sat like I tried to think about it specifically because his torso is pretty hairless in this film, which is clearly contrived.
Yeah, that's an Italian man. That should not look like that.
Deviation from his natural state. So I put some thought into it. I was like, does he look this ripped because they waxed him very cleanly, or is he just that jacked in this film? And by the end, I'm convinced this is peak Cage fitness from what we have seen thus far by a wide margin. The movie takes advantage of this. The number of fucking there's literally a up to down pan shot of Nick Cage's bare torso later in the flick. So they knew what they were doing. But I do just want to throw it out there. He's peak physical fitness from what we've seen thus far in this film. And this is the first scene where it's made clear he is shirtless, obviously just post coitus, catching up to this steamboat. So once they're safely on the steamboat, McCoy tells Hanlon that the boat is going to New York, and since the Canadian police are after him, they can lay low in the States for a while. And Hanlon's a little upset. He's like, I don't even have a shirt on my back. He's like, I know some people. We can get you taken care of. He's like, you know some people in New York? He's like, no, I know some people in Philadelphia. And at this point, Cage is he gets pissed because he rightly concludes that McCoy sort of set up this whole chase with the police in a contrived fashion to get him to go to Philadelphia to race in this race. And McCoy's like, yeah, basically. and Hanlon goes to throw him over the rails of the rowboat. The steamboat security is like, what's going on here? And Hanlon and McCoy actually end the scene on relatively good terms. Hanlon seems more amused than annoyed at this point.
Is this where McCoy refers to the Harvard rowers that are going to be at the Centennial Regatta as greasy bum boys?
That I didn't catch, but I know you had a keen ear out for old-timey insults.
Yeah, because I didn't know what the fuck he was talking about, and I had to Google it, and I couldn't find anything to do with rowing, even though it becomes abundantly clear in a future scene what they're actually talking about, and I definitely destroyed my search algorithm with that phrase.
Enjoy those ads for the next 6 months.
I don't want ads for greasy bum boys.
So
but do you know what you do want ads for, though?
Our
what?
Patreon?
Our dollar Patreon at Nick Cage Fight. No, at patreon.com/Nick Cage Fight. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Pretend I said that the first time, and here's some actual ads. Go. This podcast is sponsored by Greasy Butt Boys. And also,
we're known for our seamless transitions into our ad breaks.
We are also sponsored by the Little Buff Boy competition.
Yeah, listen, we goose them, okay? It's a goose suit.
There's your I think you should leave of the day.
Of course.
There's always one. There's always one.
You got to get one in.
Yeah. We got to figure out how to shoehorn Sopranos into this. We'll figure it out.
I was going to say we have to figure out a way to shoehorn Pay It Forward and then 55 Patreon subscribers.
I'm trying to do something. 55 Patreon subscriptions.
So, I'm not paying for that.
$650.
So we end up in Philadelphia, and as Rich pointed out before we started recording, and
I was so excited for this.
It would be a disservice not to mention it. The movie explicitly avoids pronouncing Schuylkill.
or as it's known in I guess in my tongue, the Schuylkill. It's like Google but with an S.
Yeah, sure. To be fair, the people who came up with it didn't know how to fucking pronounce it. I think that's clear from the spelling. So
listen, hoagie mouth has always been a thing.
This is true.
Hoagie mouth has been around since the 1830s when Sir Charles Hoagieton I created the first hoagie.
So I kind of feel like you could blame this one on the Pennsylvania Dutch, but that might just be my blatant Amish phobia.
No, I'm blaming it on the Earl of Hoagie.
The Earl of Sandwich.
Either way, spread that blame around. Let's not get too worried.
Meat
about
between
it.
Two pieces of bread? Well, I never.
So, this is I know I said I enjoyed the boathouse fucking scene, but this might be my favorite scene in the film because a bunch of weird shit happens, right? So
that's putting it mildly.
Sure, it makes sense to people that understand the context of the history of rowing. I did not know what the fuck they were doing in this scene to begin with.
Okay, so I took very limited notes, but mine was rubbing tar on asses. I hope this doesn't awaken anything in me.
That's a good note.
Yeah.
That's a very good note. I was actually going to start. I was trying to bury the lead a little bit here because the much less impactful, but just as fun scene to me is there is a scene where a full-grown man, Nick Cage, is running around between carnival like attractions like a child.
Yes,
I'm talking about like arms windmilling as he's running between where they're giving out cotton candy and a weird parody of a steam engine that is just a bunch of whistles playing old-timey piano tunes.
Listen, people were way dumber in the 1800s.
It's
way
true. They were
to be entertained.
So easily entertained.
What's this? A train whistle? My son will play with this for hours.
Wait till I hear about jingling keys.
Also, not to overdo the I think you should leave a bit, but the carnival piano player at a funeral bit, that's what the train the train whistle scene reminded me of, where he's like breaking plates in the middle of playing
the slide
bit.
whistle. Yeah.
All right. So we get that. We get Nick Cage running like an actual toddler between these childish attractions. But also, the whole thing starts off with him watching pensively from the shadows as two men stand with their hands on a railing as two other men apiece rub some strange substance on their butts. And I was like, what the fuck is going on?
It's the titular grease from the Greasy Bum Boys.
I do not understand. I can't comprehend. Are we making just a, sophomore joke here? What's going on? It does quickly become clear, but the first scene, especially if you don't know shit about this, which I don't, I was like, it was great. It was great. No context.
The only reason I knew what the fuck was happening because I was really curious about the insult about Greasy Bum Boys earlier in the film, which you both apparently missed.
I feel like
I did, and I'm very
enjoyed
sad
the
about
scene
it.
more because of my ignorance. It was one of those bits where it's like no context is necessary. In fact, could hinder your actual enjoyment of this. So Hanlon eventually catches up with McCoy on the fairgrounds, and McCoy is in the middle of arguing with an individual who was apparently supposed to sell him a boat for the race, who has since reneged on the deal. Another great scene as Hanlon and McCoy are discussing the fact that they don't have a boat for Hanlon to race with. There is a nearby urchin, like a street child. You can tell because he has soot smudged on
ragamuffin.
His cheeks. Exactly.
Well, he just got back from a rough 13-hour day in the coal mine,
the textile factory, whatever. But the kid's like, hey, gents, I can tell you where you can buy a boat. And they're like, where? And he's like, it'll cost you $1. And one of those cigarillos you're puffing on. He's like, the kid's fucking 7 years old. And they're like, yeah, sure, that's a great deal.
I mean, that's good historical context, though, because children loved to smoke in the 1800s.
But they're like, here's $1 and some tobacco, child. And he's like, it's right over there, the boathouse.
No, like anytime I see something like that, I just think of Ryan. I'm sure you saw the Weird Al movie. Have you, Josh?
Oh fuck yeah! I loved Weird, the Al Yankovic story.
Like every time,
his beef with Pablo Escobar in that movie had me dying the entire runtime.
No, but there's a scene where there's a running gag that his dad works in a factory and you never know what the factory makes, and then Weird Al goes to get a job in the factory and they're just like, you pull this lever, you push this button, what do we actually make? Funny joke. And then he just walks away.
No, it's even better than that. He's like, your dad said you were a cut up. I loved that movie. I loved Emo Phillips as what's that painter with the melting clock?
Salvador
Dali. Fucking Jack Black as Wolfman Jack, the DJ.
It's everything about this movie is fucking perfect, but that's a story for another day. All I was saying is that anytime I see like an 1870s kid with like soot on their face, like he just got back from the factory. What do they make? I don't know.
We make money. What are you talking about? So after a 7-year-old makes a phenomenal deal for a 7-year-old, Hanlon and McCoy go into this crazy old dude's workshop, and he's got the skinniest boat, but most importantly, the seat of this boat is on like a track you'd have in an old bureau of dresser drawers, basically, right? It's got wheels on the bottom, and it can slide. And this is where I understood the context of the fucking grease smearing on the dude's butts. I was like, oh, That's what's going on.
It's because they want their butts to stay stationary. He wants the butts to slide.
Well, no.
No.
They want their butts to be slippery, but on like just like a plank of wood, like a bench. But this boat don't need no butt grease. It's got wheels on the seat. That's the innovation here.
Ass don't need to be slippery. I got wheels, baby.
I don't need no butt grease.
Yeah. Rich, you want to lay down some historical context for why this scene is technically incorrect?
Yeah.
Please.
So this motherfucker did not live in Philly. He was from Toronto. He was actually Hanlon's coach like his whole life. He patented this because his theory was that rowers weren't generating enough power just from their upper body and that they should use their entire body.
And he used the whole ass.
You got to use the whole ass. And he was correct because this is still the standard today. You have the sliding seats when you like row crew or even just row like
on a rowing machine, an exercise machine. They have all have the slidey seats.
Now, the one thing that I found funny watching this is why did nobody show Nick Cage how to properly row? Because he gets the first part right, where it's like you're doing a seated squat. But then he just rows with his arms, and you're not supposed to do that. You go with your back first, and you basically lay all the way down, and then you do the arms. It's like the last little oomph. Yeah, teach the man how to row.
Like I said at the top, I don't know shit about rowing. It makes sense to me, but I did not notice any sort of inaccuracies during the movie where I was like, this dude's rowing all wrong.
The only reason I know this shit is because, like, outside of me, like, everybody in my fucking family was a goddamn Atlantic City lifeguard. So when I was like 9 years old, and they're just like, you're going to be a lifeguard when you turn 14. And I'm like, that seems way too young to have this type of responsibility. I don't want to do this. But they would still send me on the beach to like go like row the boats. And then they signed me up for crew. And I'm just like, this is hard. This is stressing me out more because I am 14. How am I supposed to save the life of a 40-year-old?
You're not designed for that. They had their chance.
They're over the hump. They're already dead in my mind.
So Hanlon goes on the water to try and test out this boat, but falls in because it's so thin. These boats are super tiny. They're weird. That's my take on it personally. I was like, what's with these weird, real skinny boats?
They're aerodynamic.
Sure, fine.
Aquadynamic.
There you go. So I can shave your armpits. It makes you more.
It's hydromatic. It's grease lightning.
So later in the evening, it looks like Hanlon's gotten the hang of this boat design, and the next day everybody's gearing up for the big race.
Sorry, real quick.
Yeah,
he was not the first person to try this. People knew that this was a good idea. Like, he was not ridiculed. Yes, people knew that it was a good idea. What they hadn't perfected yet was the boat that it goes in, because even like really skilled rowers were constantly like falling off the side because they were so thin, which is, what happens in the movie. But like, nobody was like, oh, look at this thing, you're never going to win with that. Our butts are stationary. It wasn't that. People knew this was a good idea. It was just
that's why
that
they were greasing up their butts.
Yeah.
They knew you needed the slide action.
Right. Like, everybody knew it was a good idea, but it was kind of like okay, we're 80% there, but nobody made the proper boat yet for this to work in.
Huh. See, the only thing I looked into as far as the guy's life was concerned, I saw that it said he was the first one to use the slidey seat thing. You're saying that's not true?
He was probably the first to use it successfully, but people were using it trying to make it work, and it wasn't. He may have been the first to use it in like an actual race, but no, Hanlon was not the first person to like go into this boat. He may have been the first to race in it.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Like in a sanctioned event.
Right. Because like I said, people understood that like this is the wave of the future.
Gotcha. All right.
Sculling future. It sounds real fucking stupid.
Yeah, no, it is.
Nobody cares about rowing.
It's fine. We're diving into this world, right? So the next day, I got to call out a very brief scene that just made me laugh. So everybody's gearing up for the big race, and there's a lady who's ranting about sinners, which is heavy callbacks to like the priest with the torches with the cops. And I can only conclude from this that ranting to people about sinners was a literal paid profession back then. It's literally half a scene, but it gave me a chuckle.
It was a good scene. I found it very funny.
So we also get introduced, although not by name and not with any context, to the character of Knox, because he's putting down a $5,000 bet in old timey money. So it was a big deal. He's like a whale of a gambler, right?
I need to know how much that was in 1876 money. Give me a second.
Wait, the movie was made in 1876, but the timeline was earlier than that, right?
The movie was not made in 1876.
The movie was not made in 1876. No, that 1876 was the date of that race because it was the Philadelphia Centennial.
Correct. It was a centennial race.
Yeah, I'm curious how much money that was because this guy was clearly a high roller. But McCoy corners Hanlon
like $142,000.
What was that?
$142,000.
That's a fucking crazy amount.
That's not as crazy as like betting would get like literally 30 years later when like fucking Rothstein would bet like $100,000 on the 1919 fucking World Series.
He rigged that.
He did rig it.
He had a justifiable reason for making that bet.
Like one of the biggest scandals in sports betting history.
Well, I mean, according to this movie, like everything was rigged. It was just like, if someone's better than you, just break their legs.
This movie does have a lot of rigging.
I was gonna say, it gave me real like Mad World vibes.
Oh, I haven't seen that
younger crowd, Rat Race,
which
was just a remake of Mad World.
Yep. Cannonball Run.
Both those movies fuck. All three of those movies fuck. I love Rat Race. I don't care what anybody says.
Rat Race was one of the first DVDs I bought.
That, Rich.
Well, yeah, Cars Go Fast.
Cars Go Fast. Mr. Bean is here.
Wait, but just to be clear, it's been a long time since I've seen all of these films, but Mad World had the literal kick the bucket scene, and Rat Race did not have an equivalent for that, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
All right, good. Okay. My memory is still intact. So, keeping in mind the bet that we just heard, McCoy tells Hanlon that he got 100-1 against him to place. Those are crazy odds.
Those are, I mean,
well, it's because it's a no name.
I about to say, so having a father who bets on horses a lot.
I was gonna say, you're bragging about having a father.
Well, no, I have a father with a crippling gambling addiction that made him leave our hometown because he owed too many people money. A no-name horse.
Deep rich lore I was craving.
Yeah, there you go. Like a no-name horse will get like 70 to 80 to 90-1 odds. Like things do get that crazy.
God, you got any inside leads on some no-name horses that are about to win?
I do not understand horse racing. I never understood it.
Well, the horse go fast, and the fastest horse will win.
Yeah, but I normally just bet on like I like this one's name.
See that in my opinion, that's the way you should bet. You should bet on weird, superstitious stuff.
Bet on vibes. Always bet on vibes.
Vibes only. That's how I approach my my driver game in golf. It's just vibes. Every other swing, I'm all about technique. Drivers, I don't understand, so it's just vibes. So that being
what a
said,
weird flex to say, hey, look at me. I have money. I play golf.
I don't.
I know.
But see, this is the fun thing is I know I don't have any talent to do it. So I just play like really shitty courses where they're like, it's $14 to play. I'm like, awesome.
I like the driving range. I like hitting the ball real hard. That's fun.
Right. It's fun.
Yeah.
So
that used to be my go-to date spot. I'm taking a girl out on a first date. Let's go hit some balls real hard.
There you go.
Let's see who hits it. That sounds like a fun first date to me. Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, it's an activity. We're not just sitting around. You get to kind of riff on whatever you're doing. It's strategic.
I'm talking about ball busting.
Yeah, ball busting. Yeah, no, that's also fun.
Don't go to like Top Golf and shit where that is fucking expensive. Go to the shitty range where it's like,
they closed my favorite one. It used to be attached to a fucking like mini golf course.
I know exactly where that is.
I liked that range quite a bit. There's still a pretty good one in some other town that I'm not going to name because I'm not trying to dox us.
Yeah, because our rabid fans are going to rush us at the fucking golf range. That being said, so
are you Josh? I fucking hate your opinions. I'm going to kill you now. Prepare yourself to be John Lennon.
Now, honestly, I'm not gonna lie. If somebody tried to assassinate one of us on like John Lennon grounds, that would just give us legitimacy. You'd never be able to stop us. So shoot to kill.
I'm so allergic to bullets. Please don't shoot me.
Bleep that out. Don't tell them to shoot to kill. No. So because it came up earlier in the recording, this race is where we do have some oar shenanigans. At the start of the race, one of the other racers tricks Hanlon by saying, "Hey, is that a crack in your oar?" And Hanlon pulls up his oars to look as the starter pistol goes off. So his oars are out of place, so he's slow off the block, but he does manage to finish second, which qualifies him for the next race, which means McCoy's bet on him to place goes through. So McCoy is up 100-1. We don't know what he betted, but it's a significant payout, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And unfortunately, given the time, this is where we have to stop. So Hanlon has managed to place in his first race that McCoy is sort of sponsoring him for, I guess, at this point. And they're making some money. They're making some betting money, some gambling money. And we're going to pick up from there in our next episode. Of course, in the meantime, please feel free to gamble on following us on social media. You can find us on Twitter at cagefight_pod, where we will respond to every tweet that @s us. That's the Nick Cage Fight Podcast guarantee.
You don't respond to the ones that you at.
Yeah, but you also have access to the Twitter account. That's a little bit different.
Fair. I should respond to myself. I should also just be playing some shell games here.
I do. We've gone back and forth a couple of times.
Yeah, that's true.
You can also find me personally on Threads because I did that.
Ooh,
it's not that bad, honestly. I actually think the interface is a bit better.
Do you know what permissions you agreed to?
I have no idea.
Listen, I don't.
It's fine.
All right. I hope so. I know some of the searches you make just for research on this podcast that are perfectly benign, but the federal government might disagree with.
I don't need the government to know how often I search for greasy bum boys.
Exactly. This is the perfect episode to bring up Threads, my dude.
I mean, look, if fucking decolonize this place is on Threads, like, I'll be okay.
Yeah, for now.
For now, until they come for me.
Exactly. And we in the Cage Fight Podcast will stand up for you at that point. They came for the greasy bum boys.
They're literally
stood up and said something.
There are dozens of us.
Literally.
But my name there is Trickus Dickus. I post a lot about Nick Cage stuff. If you're on the Threads, I guess. I keep it pretty tame.
Classic. We are trying to get on Blue Sky, but we're not popular enough for anybody to send us an access code. So coming soon on that one, I guess.
Yeah, on whatever hellhole replaces Twitter, because like I just can't deal with only being able to see 600 posts a day.
It's fucking absurd, man. A fucking dying social media platform.
Yeah, speaking like Jesus Christ. So just a quick little rant on Twitter. I consume so much pro wrestling in a week that I have to put stuff to the side. And how I keep up with that is with Twitter. Now, whenever I try to open a Twitter link, it just says, oops, you didn't give us money.
You have reached your professional wrestling limit for the day.
And
sir.
even if I did give them money, I'd only get $1,200.
It's wild.
God damn it, Elon.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't even want to get into it.
That's fine. What I do want to get into is our Patreon.
Yes, please plug that.
Patreon.com/NickCageFight. That $3 tier that I'm always talking about, it's $1 right now, and will remain $1 until I decide to, push it back up. So
there you go. It's a crazy deal, controlled by a madman. Get in while you can. That's my advice. Speaking of dying social media platforms, we're on Facebook, but only if you're an uncle. Just start Googling Nick Cage. You'll find us for sure. The hundreds of likes we get from weird uncles every day is proof of that.
We do get hundreds of likes.
We do. It's insane.
Our comment section on any post that we make on there is like just the dementia variety hour.
It is. I'm sorry. There are at least 1,500 uncles or grandparents that think we're Nick Cage on Facebook.
Yes.
We'll
always have comments like, I loved you in blank movie.
Yes. Or could I send you a t-shirt and you sign it? And I respond to all of those. Yes, absolutely. Here's our mailing address. PO box.
I do respond to some of those and say, like, I loved you in Face Off. I'm like, thank you, because it is I, Nick Cage.
I do appreciate how PR style you answer all of those, because some of them are insane. They're like, dear Mr. Nick Cage, if you're not aware, there are lizard people infecting our government. And Rich's responses are always like, thank you so much for your appreciation of our work. Please follow us on these other platforms and consider donating to our Patreon. It's beautiful, man. I'm not gonna lie.
It's real good.
Yeah, I really have to up my grift game on that, because if we're gonna grift somebody, it's the lizard.
Nice.
It's the lizard person, people.
You're too nice. Your responses should be like, I am Nick Cage. I am in Iraq right now. Send me $25 to this Cash App, or else the terrorists win.
Hi, this is Nick Cage. I have John Travolta here. We need funding for Face Off 2. Hi, I'm John Travolta. Summer lovin', blah, blah, blah.
All right. Okay. We gotta wrap this before it gets too weird. Listeners, thank you for tuning in. And as always, we appreciate you.
As always, I am Nick Cage.
Follow us on Facebook.